All right, so we'll just get started then, guys, and we'll hopefully wait for Kezia. Hopefully, she'll jump in and join us. But yeah, if you want to start by introducing yourself first, Rachel, we'll go with yourself.
All right, Kia ora, good morning. All the way from Auckland, New Zealand. My name is Rach, born in the UK and emigrated to New Zealand in 2004 with a great job opportunity. Hadn't been here before. 18 years later, I've been back only to visit. My introduction to the Imperfectly Perfect campaign has come through knowing Glenn for many, many years and just finding that the world was missing a little bit of what seemed like reality. It seemed like it had gone a little bit in the direction of superficiality, and I felt lost. And then the IPC came on my radar, and it felt like home. So I've really enjoyed being part of the Imperfectly Perfect campaign and raising the volume on us humans being imperfectly perfect. So it's a pleasure to be part of this Pay It Forward series and meet the likes of yourselves and spend some time, raising the volume.
Thank you. Chibs.
Yeah, so I'm Chibs. I'm a stress the burnout specialist, and I'm also a meditation teacher. And as Glenn said, I actually went to sleep with my own. A bit weird. I don't know. I was trying to work out if that makes me a narcissist or not. I'm not sure. But I had a new sleep meditation on Calm yesterday, so I went to sleep with my own voice going on, which is a little bit weird, but it's actually quite nice. So yeah, but and I've known Glenn for a while now, I guess. I think we went on each other's podcasts, didn't we? And and we kind of hang out lots in Sydney and put the world to rights. So yeah, it's I love what Glenn has been doing, and yeah, very happy to be part of it.
Thank you. Ali.
Hi. So I became involved massively in mental health in 2018, and this mission about Imperfectly Perfect, it just totally describes me. So I was, unbeknown to Glenn, I was doing my own thing, thinking, why are these people talking about stigma and reducing stigma, but actually nothing's being done about it? So I was doing my own thing. I'm a creative, so I'm an actor, I'm a speaker, a writer. So I was doing things in my own way, and I met Kezia in March 2020, just before life as we know it changed. And I was due to go in the next volume of the book then. But as we know, that was delayed. And 2 years later, here I am.
Great. And Blaine.
Yeah, Glenn and I got connected through mutual friend David Meltzer. That David's a partner of mine, a writing partner, as well as a business partner and friend. The focus of my work is on compassion. Yeah, compassion specifically in the workplace. And that's just kind of where it gets started, but then it gets expanded significantly. And in my experience in living life and working is that most people will sort for differences, and that's where things break down. There is no difference between you and I, at a very fundamental level, which is where compassion comes in. So the idea of healing trauma, healing the disease that we find in the world, I think, is rooted in a recognition of connection. And that's the work that I do in the business world. That's the work I do in my life. And I'm just thrilled to be a part of the project.
Thank you, Blaine. And yeah, equally so, I know I can speak on behalf of Kezia as well. Like, we're so grateful everybody took part in this Pay It Forward Notes to My Young Self. Obviously, with the premise being, if you could look back and you could send or write a letter to your younger self, what would that look like and how would it be? So in terms of the process, and I'll just ask it round the table, I know, Rachel, you wrote the foreword and you had some ideology around if you were to write it to your younger self. What was that process like when you had to look back on pivotal moments of your time, like the book refers to?
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah, so I've been operating in the field of health and fitness for 20 years, and I've made an incredible career. I've traveled the world on somebody else's ticket, which I'm very grateful for, spreading the word of health and fitness. And I feel like I've added value to the world. It feels incredible to be in a job that doesn't feel like work and feels like it's adding great value to people. But I realized that something was missing, and it was mental fitness. So looking back is really important for me, in a sense. Where's the missing piece? What do I wish I had been educated in? What do I wish I had known earlier? And I've thoroughly enjoyed that process. And interestingly enough, I realized that it was actually the breaking points where I wasn't educated in handling the world and what was happening in my world to expedite the trial and error process and break through failure and get back to a place where I felt like I was achieving again. That the breaking points were my making points. So I wouldn't actually want to change anything. Empowering myself with knowledge, absolutely. However, looking back and reflecting on those breaking points, they've sent me like a pinball game in the right direction to be able to contribute in my industry to this upskill, this awakening, shall we say, to the world of mental fitness and mental health support. So it's all about breaking points and turning them into the making of an improved version of me.
Wow. And anybody agree with that? Blaine, we'll go to you. When you did the actual process yourself, what did you find when you had to look back over your life and those pivotal moments and those breaking points as well?
Well, I love what you say, Rachel, and how you actually position that. There are no obstacles in life in one sense, because I would not encounter the obstacle unless I was on my path. The obstacle can't not exist if I'm not on the path. So it's part of the path. So that idea of the breaking point, where I'm struggling with the obstacle, it is what makes me who I am as I move to that next level of ideation, that next level of growth. The writing of the chapter, the contribution on this book, it was fascinating to me. And my pup just saw a deer go by. It was fascinating in terms of what it uncovered. I mean, things that I hadn't thought about in probably 60 years, maybe even longer than that. That how did I get on this path? How did I actually come to walk this journey? And one of the things that seemed to show up for me was the idea of conflict. Conflict doesn't, conflict basically is a function of friction and two opposing viewpoints. There's friction involved. Friction generates heat, but it also generates light. And what's interesting about friction is you can't have movement without friction. It's literally impossible to move if there's no friction. And in the metaphor I would use is walking on ice. I mean, I need to have, friction in order to actually navigate that well. So how do I work with conflict becomes actually the transition point and the breaking point into the making point. Friction is going to exist. Conflict is going to exist in any conflict in any relationship that I have. It's always going to be present in some form. If there's no friction, there's no growth. If there's no growth, I'm stagnating. And the mindset that goes into appreciating that is actually where my work is I think most useful. And what I wrote about in my chapter was a very simple moment when I was 12 years old, when my parents, said to me, my mother in specific, sat me down and she said, "Look, you've been going to Sunday school. You've been, we've taught you everything that we know about this thing that we call religion. And we know that there is so much more out there than what we even are aware of. So from this point forward, 12 years of age, from this point forward, we set you free. You go explore on your own. You aren't, we're not going to say that you need to do it our way or even adhere to anything that we think we believe in." And that simple little move, that opening to say, go explore, was probably the greatest seminal moment I've had in my life, because it set me on a path of exploration that has informed my entire life. Yeah, I mean, it was, everybody's got opinions, but they don't have to be mine. Everybody's got a reality. It doesn't have to be mine. And yeah, I look back on that, and I hadn't even thought about that, but that's actually what I ended up writing about. And it was very, very interesting, way to kind of look at this. And so the letter to my younger self was, way to go, kid. You took a gift that seemed to be not particularly large and turned it into something that was transformative. So that's kind of where I went with that.
Wow. And yeah, I can't wait to read everyone's chapter. And I was fortunate enough to yesterday read Chibs, and that just blew me away. And obviously part of the IPC is about getting to know people behind a profession or a title. And what I read about Chibs, like I sent him a message afterwards and just said that blew me away. So what was the process like for you, Chibs, when you were actually going back to some of those places? Because as I was reading it, it was emotional for somebody on the external to read it and to relive it for you.
Yeah, so I guess it's probably a bit of a combination of Rachael and Blaine, to be honest. So my whole, I don't know if it's my philosophy on life, but it's just a bit of I guess, a starting point whenever anything goes wrong. So if there was I haven't got any tattoos, but if I had a tattoo, there's two. One would be amor fati, right? And so that was and amor fati means love of fate or love of one's fate, something along those lines. And the other one is memento mori, and it's like, basically, remember that you're gonna die. Just remember that. But this letter to myself was based around that amor fati. So as Rachael says, I wouldn't change a thing, because if I change a thing, I mean, just from a risk and benefits perspective, I've got a pretty good life now, and I'm pretty well set up for my second half of life because of the new mindset that I've got. And to be honest, I'm not saying life is always going to be easy, but with my mindset, I can make my life a lot easier than it used to be, moment to moment. So amor fati was the whole kind of thing. It's like, yeah, so just acknowledging that you're going through all these tough times. So I suppose with Blaine's work and compassion stuff. So it was about me giving compassion to my younger self and love to my younger self. But I'm not going to give you any advice. I don't want to screw it up for you. Do you know what I mean? Because I could make your life easier, but will I make your life more fulfilling? Will I give you purpose in your life? I don't know. So, it's just a bit of a risk. So right now, very happy with how things went, and that burnout that I had several years ago, that was, objectively, thank God for my burnout. Otherwise I wouldn't be this burnout guy on the car map. So lucky, even though I wanted to neck myself at the time, it was worth it, so don't change a thing, but just know that, I've got your back, and, I'm sending you love and compassion, and you'll be all right. You'll work it out. You've got this. Yeah, I think that's what I called. Is that what I called my title? I think maybe You've Got This. I don't know. Came up with it last night because I realized I didn't have a title. But yeah, if it's not, then that's going to be my title. You've got this.
Got this. You'll love this, Chips.
What's
it says?
Memento mori. There you go.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
I carry this with me. Yeah, I've had this for years. I carry it with me every single day.
Yeah, amazing. All right, cool. Yeah, so there you go. So anyone got an amor fati coin in their pocket that they want to pull out? Yeah, see, life never works out how you want it.
But you wouldn't change a thing. Ali, what about yourself?
Yeah, so for me, it's been a very interesting journey. I actually wrote a book chapter for another book last year. So I did go through a lot of emotions in this book, but I think in some ways, the last one was harder because it was Glenn knows this. I've had a huge background in social anxiety. So this chapter didn't focus so much on that. It focused on PTSD. complex PTSD. But actually, it surprised me. It surprised me. It always surprises me which moments get you, because they're not always the moments that you think will get you. So I started off talking about various things over my university years. And I always used to think I was a failure. And then I started writing about everything that I'd been through. And I thought, oh my God, you thought you were a failure, and yet you went through this and this and this and this. And it just struck me. And that was the trajectory of my life for many years, because I viewed myself as a failure. But as a lot of you were saying, that this period, I've had some health issues over the last few years. I've had bowel surgery in 2018. I had breast cancer treatment early in 2021. But actually, those times have given me times of reflection, have given me times of growth, and most importantly, have encouraged me to completely flip my life on its head. And no longer am I kind of afraid to say yes. I will just say yes to all opportunities now. I'm listening to my heart. I've spent so long in my head, so long in fear. And writing this chapter is another part of that, because this book is going, let's just say this book is going a bit further than my last book went. And so me being here today, me writing the book, me being on a video with you all, when 4 years ago I was even talking about myself was a massive, massive thing. I perform, I'm fine performing on stage because I'm being somebody else, but actually performing as me and writing as me. I'm naturally a very, very positive person, but people seeing not who I am behind the mask, but seeing what I've and what I've overcome makes me feel that hopefully they will see that just because you're there now, it doesn't mean you're stuck there. It means there is a way through.
Very, very true. I want to ask probably just two more questions, because we've got a few people on, but was there a point during the process it took you to places that you'd never been before, that took you back to that place and that lost little kid, if it was back to your younger self, where the emotions actually came up and it made sense as to where you are these days and how you treat other people within your profession or everyday life? Start with Blaine. So Blaine, within your everyday, you do a lot in terms of compassionate capitalism. You go into a lot of large organizations, the stuff that you do. Was there a point during that process of looking back and going, oh, that makes sense now, how to my personality, my attributes?
I think yes. Well, I know yes is the answer. I don't just simply think it. The idea of acceptance, just genuinely being accepting. I started earlier in the meeting here talking about how many people will tend to sort for differences. I've noticed in my life, as I was looking backward, that sorting process kind of shifted, and I really started looking for similarities. How am I similar? How am I like this person, rather than how am I not like that person? And it was in that noticing of similarity, of affinity, that everything started to evolve. And the label I put on this now has to do with compassion, because compassion isn't a feeling. Compassion is a behavior. Yeah. And compassion as a behavior is predicated on a recognition that everything is connected. And when I start sorting for similarities, I recognize those connections. So in my work and in my living, that sorting for similarity has informed almost all of the work I do with organizations. Yeah. So how are you as an organization treating your constituencies? Because they're not dissimilar from who you are. They actually are you. And and I say they, employees, customers, vendors, the earth, the atmosphere, the water. I am connected to all of that in some way, shape, or form. So that recognition informs behavior that is compassionate. I take care of that from a sensibility standpoint. And that began, I mean, literally, as I was reviewing, in the chapter, not just that moment when my mother said, "Yeah, you're free. Go out and do what you want to do and go explore it." But it was in that permission to look for, how are things similar? There's the great religions. How are they similar? Not how are they different, but how are they similar? The notion of the perennial philosophy. These great truths exists in every major religion on the planet, and they hold water. They've been around for millennia, and not just in religious dogma, but you go back, before any of the major religions actually emerged, and there was this ethos of connection, in the way that tribes function, all of that stuff. So I guess that's kind of how I would answer that. It has been both informative but also formative. And there was a period in time where I was very emotional about that. And I've worked a lot with trauma surgeons and folks in the medical field, and I'm still touched by what happens, but I'm not emotionally uncentered by what happens. And being able to have that grounding has been important. And just, I think living in the experience of connection allows for that groundedness to actually be present. And that seems a bit of an abstraction, but it speaks to connection. What I see out there is a part of me. And because it is a part of me, I can welcome it.
I'm going to take that over to Rachael as well, because you've just been over to the US and you're in front of thousands upon thousands of people all the time. And you've got this persona on stage that excels everything. But the more and more that you've obviously worked on yourself and the older you've got and then looked back, can you see that person in the younger you coming forward, who you are, even on stage as off stage? Because I've got to know you really well, and you're just the same person on stage, off stage, but internally yourself, has they felt a difference, or have you noticed that you've always carried that all the way through with you as well?
Thanks, Glenn. Yeah. Looking back at life is fascinating because we live forward, but we understand backwards, is my reflective response to this. I'm constantly living forward, but I only understand life backwards when I go, oh, that's why that happened. That's why I responded. And essentially, I am the same person externally and internally. What I've become is more me, more of me. I'm understanding me. And as I understand me, I understand the world. And I'm not quite sure which comes first, the chicken and the egg. Do I understand the world so I understand more of myself? And I feel like, whilst I said my breaking points are my making points, it's beyond that. It feels like a code. If I was to look in a metaphorical sense, I feel like if I look at all of us, we have a code and there's buttons that get pushed. We call them trigger points. People talking about, I got triggered by something. I think Blaine was just saying, you don't become emotionally uncentered by things anymore that you would have previously been. And the same as Chibs, you said, you're ready for, this is it, time's done. But now I'm so grateful for those times because where I've arrived. So this journey that we experience is code for the greater advancement of the human race as we evolve mentally to understand what's going on between our ears. We're learning about the body. I'm learning more about the mind, and I'm proud of every single step of the way because I feel like just being in the health and fitness industry, it's very egocentric. It's very much about stand on stage, sing, dance, entertain people, make sure that the exercise they do feels like something they want to repeat so that they come back and repeat. to disguise exercise as exertainment. However, my success or my ability to still be relevant in the industry has become apparent that it's more about my vulnerability and not my incredibility. How incredible her fitness is, how incredible her physicality is. It's actually how incredible that she does this with such vulnerability and realness, and that I'm somehow considered brave for being real. For me, I don't know any other way to be. It just makes sense to be this way. So again, it feels like I've been positioned in this place so that I can be challenged by these obstacles, as Blaine said, these obstacles, so that I can overcome them and share that learning with people. Not to fix it, because like Chibs said, I wouldn't want to save you from your struggle, because in fact, your strength lives inside your struggle. Just feel assured by the fact that the arrival at the end of this journey, or this phase of your journey, will be so rewarding that you wouldn't want to exchange that struggle. Like Ali said, you're great to stand. I could be a different person. I could stand up there and be this person that they want me to be, possibly focus more on the aesthetics and be more popular, but it wouldn't make me happier. I'm happy being me, and I'm proud of myself for being more me every day.
Well, and you don't change. And that is why she's one of the most popular. You will see all the comments and it's always Rachael, 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 because she leads from her heart. If we're talking internal and about what we've just asked, on an external, did writing your story, because what I read, obviously make you appreciate and understand those around you that may have hurt you in the past, and realize that, hey, actually, they were going through their own journey as well? How did you respond to that, looking back on things? Did it make you more appreciative that the way that somebody may have tricked you is on their own path?
Kind of dealt with that already, I think. So I don't really have any resentment to anyone in the past, you know. So I suppose the person that I would have had the most resentment towards would have been my dad, but that got worked. That's already been worked out. For me, it was the exercise helped me. It just helped me kind of reinforce the fact that I'm on the path, you know. So it didn't really open my eyes too much, but it did. One thing that it did make me realize was that I just appreciated, what I did appreciate were that there were lessons from my dad. So up until that point, I was like, okay, I learned lots of bad lessons from my dad. My dad gave me lots of parents, whatever. I guess I'm focusing on my dad. But you know, it was my mum and my dad, but I guess I was probably just a bit more sensitive to my mum. I'm like, oh, she might read this, so I better leave that stuff out. So stepdad, unfortunately copped it all, but it's all right. So what I realized through it is that I actually got some good lessons from him. It's just the way that I transformed those lessons. So some lessons I got, which were bad and made me act in a way that was destructive, but some lessons I took on board and I actually used them in a positive way. So for example, you know, I've always kind of said, yeah, he's a loser. He's always, calls himself a businessman, but to this day, I'm 48 years old. My birthday today, by the way. So 48 years old today. And he's been in my life for, I guess, since I was 6, so 42 years. So in the 42 years, he's never pulled off a deal, right? So in my head, absolute loser. But, you know, I'm kind of forgiven him for all the bad things that he did. But what Kezia kind of made me kind of realize is like, well, that, in my head, delusion that he had, she's like, well, that sounds to me like, you know, very, very optimistic, you know, and, you know, keep on going and, you know, good things are around the corner. And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because I've got that. I'm very confident about the future, and I've done harebrained things that should not, like, who goes from earning what I was earning 6 years ago to going, fuck all this. This is not for me. I'm going to go and become a meditation teacher. And everyone was like, really? Like, what are you doing? And as my brother said to me a few weeks ago, he goes, yeah, how the hell? How the hell did you go from Wolf of Wall Street to to being on the car map? They didn't dig quite deep enough, but even that, but I've got this weird confidence and optimism, and I can spot an opportunity and I can go for it, but now I've just managed to soften those edges massively. I've been able to bring that compassion in towards myself. I've been able to soften my attitudes in all sorts of different areas. But I learned a lot from him. I learned how to basically, persevere when perhaps others would tell you, you shouldn't. But luckily I haven't got that same delusion as him. And I've got the capability to go with my ambition, if you like. So that was the interesting part to me. It was being able to see that he did actually teach me some good things, just in a weird way.
I love the Wolf of Wall Street to the car. Well, you're doing good at what you do, mate, to say what you've achieved in terms of being a meditation teacher around the world. So we can look back now. Ali, what would you say? And then I've got one question that's just going to go around really quick, guys. But what would you say you've taken away from the whole experience?
Well, the word compassion keeps on coming up. And I would say I've always been very compassionate towards others, but much less compassionate towards myself. And I've been on a journey with that. And I think by a lot of what I've written about I've forgiven myself for what I did or for what I didn't do. And I've let go of shame and guilt. I think I've just laid lots of things out there. I thought, oh, there's something else. I thought, just lay it out there, because how can something be shameful if you start talking about it openly? Then it's just been a massive letting go of things that some things I knew about, and other things I was thought around body image. I thought, oh, I'd forgotten about that. But they're the bits that somebody's kind of gone. One of the fellow authors, she wrote, oh, okay, that really hit me, that bit. So so it was worthwhile putting it in, because that's the impact, isn't it?
It is amazing. So last question, guys, and I'm going to make this really quick one and just a Rocky Robin sort of thing, is I was talking about it yesterday, and it's a tribute to IPC, but this whole piece around your authentic self. To me, this word sometimes, I think with marketing, it's being manipulated because a lot of people's actions don't meet what it means to be authentic. When it comes to confidence, leading by your imperfections and fully embracing yourself, what would you say being ultimately your true self is, where you can walk in and be confident in any surrounding? We'll go Blaine first, and then we'll go around really quick.
Authenticity. I mean, I teach a program on authenticity from a leadership perspective. Authenticity is what I'm left with when I stop trying to manage your perception of who I am. When I stop trying to manage what you think is me. And that's basically it. I mean, I'm very comfortable in my skin. Over the time that I've been walking around here, I've gotten to know myself fairly well. An old mentor of mine years ago said, we connect through vulnerability, and then I amended that to say that we disconnect through certainty. And I'm not positioning anything that I say or do as being certain, as being the truth. So I think that's one of the gateways to authenticity, is being vulnerable. Here's just a point of view. That'll go all the way back to when I was 12 years old. Here's just a point of view. So authenticity and vulnerability go hand in hand. And I think it's impossible to be credible unless you're being vulnerable. Period. The end.
Wow. Love that. Love that. Ali?
So I think for me, authenticity came out really when I went through my breast cancer challenge, because I did the physical dealing with it, but I talked about mental health every day. And people followed my journey, and I was being really, really honest. So for me, it's about being honest. And in the interviews that I gave, it was about, okay, today's a good day. What you see is this. But admitting that some days weren't so good and some days I was in tears. So very much now, authenticity to me is what you see is what you get.
Rachael, you're thinking there.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed this meeting this morning. What a privilege to share this moment with you all. For the past 18, 19 years, myself and my colleague who create the world's largest mixed martial arts inspired fitness workout. Haven't said that before, have I? We finish every workout with 2 sentences: keep it real, stay with the fight. We didn't know when we first started saying that all these years ago, almost 2 decades, that how apparent and how important that would be as a strand of DNA through both of our lives. How we have always kept it real with each other and with the world, and how important it really is now to keep it real. And by being real with ourselves and staying, I mean, the grammar of stay with the fight is an interesting concept because it doesn't actually grammatically make sense to many people, but to us it did. And life is a fight. It's a fight to find you. It's a fight to reveal. You have to fight off the pieces of yourself that no longer serve you, that may have served you to help you get to this stage. And then you fight to break free of them. It's like, I don't need you anymore. You were great for then, but I don't need that piece of you anymore. And I'm going to stay the course, and I'm going to keep it real with myself. So I'm grateful that these 2 kids from Southeast London and Lancashire found each other, and this phrase that has helped us steer course for life, keeping it real and staying with the fight.
I've got maybe a little story that might be relevant with this new addition to our family. But yeah, I mean, again, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but my instinct is that authenticity is probably more of a goal than an absolute, because we're all stinky, dirty, bad breath, nasty things coming out of us, maybe don't look great when we're naked, whatever. So, to be 100% authentic is, I think, maybe not achievable in the outside world. Okay, so I think we do have to have a bit of a persona on. I certainly do anyway. I feel like I need to have a bit of a persona on, and authenticity is something I'm moving towards and getting more comfortable with as I get older. But I've been saying it recently. I said it to someone the other day, like with this little one, the way I speak to her. Like the beautiful thing about this, so she's only 12 weeks old, little puppy, but the way that I speak to her, I feel is authentic. But it would be really weird if I talked to her, even my 13-year-old daughter, she'd be uncomfortable if I gave her as much love as I give this little one, right? But this little one can't talk back, and it's like, and she just looks at me with these loving eyes and just sucks it in. So I suppose because we've all got these barriers up, it's hard for us to be authentic, so how can I be 100% authentic when there's a million people with barriers in front of me? I don't want to, that will make people uncomfortable. So it's about, so again, I'm just talking off the top of my head here, and I don't know, I haven't really gathered my thoughts, but if I'm 100% authentic, I'm going to make you uncomfortable. Do I want to make you, how uncomfortable do I want you to feel? So that's as much as I can give you. That's as much realness as I can give you right now, so I need to kind of meet people where they're at. Where she's at, she just wants love, and she will just take it in, and she has no words. She has no judgments, so she can just take it, but there's judgments coming from everyone else. So I think, just got to be careful, actually, not to be too real, especially, if you've had a lot of trauma or a lot of realness in your life. think you just have to be a little bit careful what you give out, and you have to present it in the right way. So I don't know if that's totally going against the spiritual community or the authenticity community, but that's just how I feel right now. I'm open to talking about it.
That's authentic, though, right? Sorry to cut you in, Glenn, but I've just got to say that's you being authentically you in this moment. That's the center of authenticity, and it's refreshing.
Yeah, and just being able to recognize what's too much and what's too little, because authenticity isn't an on-off switch. There's a rheostat. Yeah, but the key is knowing myself well enough to know how to work that rheostat rather than flipping an on-off switch. That's authenticity. Do I know myself well enough to be able to moderate?
Right. Yeah. So I guess so from my perspective, then, yeah. So you're right. So when I think about authenticity and what my goal is to be honest and authentic with myself, and try and clear away these. And I'm finding out new programs, new parts of the algorithm that I wasn't aware of. Every day I'm like, oh, I didn't know I thought that, or I didn't know that I was acting in that way. So yeah, I'll possibly, it'll just be a constant journey until the day I die, and then beyond, hopefully.
Well, guys, on behalf of me and Kezia, thank you very much for taking part, obviously, in the Pay It Forward Notes from My Younger Self. We look forward to obviously releasing it in November and letting everybody read your amazing stories. So thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Nice to meet you all.
Thanks, everyone.